David Miller never imagined his life would turn out like this, a single father of twin girls, struggling to make ends meet in a small town where everyone knew everyone else's business. His wife, Emily, had passed away when the girls were only 3 years old, leaving him with nothing but broken dreams and two little souls who depended on him for everything. Now, at 9 years old, Lily and Lucy were inseparable. They shared everything, their small bedroom, hand-me-down clothes, and even the dream of one day singing on a big stage. But life in Pinebrook was far from kind to dreamers, especially poor ones. David worked double shifts at a mechanic shop, often coming home long after the girls had gone to bed. Still, he made sure every morning started with pancakes, even if it meant he skipped breakfast himself. At school, the twins were often teased for their old clothes and worn-out shoes. But they never let it show. They always smiled, always sang softly to each other when things got tough. Their voices were pure, angelic, but no one ever noticed. Until one day, during music class, a group of popular kids decided to make fun of them. "Hey, Miss Carter," one of the boys sneered, "you should let the Miller twins sing at the school talent show. I bet they'll break the glass with their squeaky voices." The class erupted in laughter. Lily's face turned red, and Lucy's eyes filled with tears. Miss Carter, the music teacher, looked uncertain. She knew how cruel kids could be. But before she could say anything, Lily stood up, holding her sister's hand. "We'll sing," she said quietly. "We'd love to." That stunned everyone. That evening, when David came home, the girls told him everything. He looked worried. "You don't have to do it if you don't want to," he said softly. "People can be mean." Lucy shook her head. "Mama used to say our voices can make people feel something, right?" David smiled sadly. She did. The next few days, the twins practiced endlessly, in their tiny living room, on their walk to school, even while helping their dad fix dinner. Their song was simple but full of emotion, a melody their mother used to sing before bedtime. The night of the talent show arrived. The gymnasium was packed. Parents, teachers, and students filled the seats, buzzing with laughter and chatter. The twins waited backstage, holding hands tightly, wearing matching secondhand dresses their dad had ironed carefully. When their names were announced, a few chuckles echoed from the crowd. "Let's see what the poor girls can do," someone whispered. David, sitting in the last row, clenched his hands nervously. His heart pounded as his daughters stepped onto the stage, trembling but determined. Lucy looked at Lily, and Lily gave a small nod. The soft piano intro began. And then, they sang. At first, it was quiet. But as their voices intertwined, sweet and haunting, the laughter died. The audience grew still. Every note carried pain, love, and something more, a soul that could only come from hearts that had known loss but still believed in beauty. By the time they reached the last verse, even Miss Carter had tears in her eyes. The twins finished, and for a moment, there was complete silence. Then, thunderous applause. David stood, tears streaming down his face. The girls looked for him through the bright stage lights, and when they saw his proud smile, they ran straight into his arms. What started as a cruel joke had turned into something unforgettable. But that night was just the beginning, because someone in that audience would soon change their lives forever. The applause from the school gym echoed in David's heart long after the lights went out. For the first time in years, he saw his daughters glowing, not with fear or sadness, but with pride. The world had finally seen what he always knew: Lily and Lucy were special. But as they walked home that night under the soft streetlights, hand in hand, none of them realized that the real miracle had only just begun. The video. Miss Carter had recorded every performance that night to upload to the school's private channel for parents. But after hearing the twins sing, she couldn't shake the feeling that the world needed to hear them too. She hesitated. Would it embarrass them? Would people be cruel? Finally, she decided to post the video on her personal page, writing, "Greater than, these girls were asked to sing as a joke. But what they gave us tonight was pure magic. Meet Lily and Lucy Miller." By morning, the video had been shared hundreds of times. By afternoon, tens of thousands. People from all over the country commented, "Greater than, these voices gave me chills. I can't believe they're only 9. Someone needs to help these angels." When David returned from work that day, his old phone buzzed nonstop. Messages poured in from people he hadn't spoken to in years. "David, your girls are everywhere." He opened the video link, watching through tears as his daughter's sweet harmony filled the tiny screen. The same voices that once only comforted him on dark nights were now touching hearts around the world. "Girls," he whispered, "you've gone viral." The twins didn't understand at first. But when reporters started calling the school and cars began stopping outside their small house for photos, it became real. "Dad," Lucy said, hiding behind him, "why are they taking pictures of us?" "Because," he said, smiling gently, "they finally heard what your mama always knew." The offer. A week later, a black car stopped in front of their home. Out stepped a woman in her 40s with red heels and a confident smile. She introduced herself as Sandra Bell, a talent scout from a major record label. "I saw the video," she said, shaking David's hand. "Your daughters are extraordinary. I think they could record their first single, maybe even an album." David blinked in disbelief. "Ma'am, we're not rich folks. We can't afford studio time." Sandra smiled. "You don't have to. We'll take care of everything, if you agree to let us represent them." Lily and Lucy watched wide-eyed as their father hesitated. The mechanic in him wanted to be cautious, but the father in him wanted his daughters to soar. "I just want them safe," he finally said. Sandra nodded. "Then let's make sure their voices are heard safely, and beautifully." Within days, the twins were flown to New York for their first recording session. It was a whirlwind: microphones, headphones, lights, interviews. They sang the same song they'd performed at school, this time in a professional studio. When they finished, even the sound engineers clapped. The single was released online 2 weeks later under the title, Mama's Song. It exploded. Millions of views, radio play, TV appearances. The girls became known as the Angel Twins. For the first time in years, David didn't have to worry about bills. But more than money, it was the joy on his daughters' faces that filled his heart. Fame and fear. But fame isn't always kind, especially to children. Soon, reporters began digging into their past, writing headlines like, "Greater than, poor twins rise from tragedy to stardom. Single dad's angels capture the nation's heart." Everyone wanted a piece of their story. One evening, after a long day of interviews, Lily came to her father's room. "Dad," she said softly, "can we go home for a while? I miss our school. I miss pancakes." David looked at her tired face and realized that even dreams could be heavy to carry. The next morning, he called Sandra. "We're taking a break," he said firmly. "They're still kids." Sandra hesitated, then smiled. "That's what makes you a good father, David." They returned to Pinebrook quietly. The town that once mocked them now treated them like heroes. Miss Carter hugged them with tears in her eyes. "I told you your voices were special," she whispered. But the real surprise came a month later when the school announced they were hosting a charity concert, and invited Lily and Lucy to headline. The proceeds would go toward helping underprivileged children afford music lessons. David was proud. "That's exactly what your mom would have wanted," he said. The concert. The night of the concert, the same gymnasium that had once been filled with laughter at their expense was now decorated with lights and banners that read, "Greater than, believe in every voice." When the twins stepped on stage, the crowd erupted. They had come full circle, from being a joke to becoming an inspiration. Lily took the microphone and looked at the audience. "We were once afraid to sing," she said softly. "But now we sing for kids who don't get the chance. Thank you for believing in us." Their new song, Stronger Together, was about hope, love, and family. As their voices blended in harmony, David closed his eyes. He could almost hear Emily's voice among theirs, like a whisper in the wind. When the final note faded, the audience rose to their feet, clapping and crying. That night, David realized something deeper: his daughters hadn't just become singers. They'd become symbols of resilience. A letter from the past. A few days after the concert, David received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was old and elegant. It was from Emily's mother, a woman he hadn't heard from in years. Inside was a photo of Emily holding the twins as babies, and a note that read, "Greater than, David, I saw the girls on TV. You've raised them beautifully. Emily would be proud beyond words. Their voices are her legacy, and your strength." He held the letter to his chest, tears slipping down his cheeks. For so long, he had felt like a failure. But now he saw, every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every pancake breakfast, had led to this moment. His daughters didn't just survive. They soared. The promise. Months passed. The twins' fame grew, but their hearts stayed humble. They insisted on finishing school in Pinebrook and spent weekends helping Miss Carter teach music to other kids. One day, Lucy found her dad fixing an old car outside their new, slightly bigger home. She ran up to him, holding a crumpled flyer. "Dad, the school's holding another talent show. We're going to sing again." David laughed. "Haven't you girls had enough of that stage?" Lily shook her head. "No, this time we're not the joke. We're the judges." The three of them laughed together, the sound of a family that had been broken but never defeated. That night, as the twins practiced in their room, David stood by the door, listening. Their voices were stronger now, more confident. But beneath every note was the same innocence that had silenced a room years ago. He whispered softly, "Sing, my angels. Sing for her. The legacy." Years later, when people talked about the Miller twins, they didn't just talk about their fame. They talked about their kindness, the foundation they built to fund music education for poor children, the charity concerts they performed for orphanages, and the way they never forgot their small-town roots. In every interview, they mentioned their father. "He taught us that love can sound louder than laughter," Lily said once. "And that no matter where you come from, your voice matters." When David grew old, his daughters often returned home between tours. They still sat on the porch together, singing softly, the same song their mother used to hum. The world might have called them stars, but to David, they were still his little girls with braids and mismatched socks, standing in the living room singing to make their mama proud. And every time they sang, the world listened, silent, awed, and forever changed. Because once upon a time, two poor twins were mocked for daring to dream. And their voices made the whole world believe again. Glowing star title. Single dad saved poor twin girls mocked for singing, but their voices silenced the world. Description. When twin sisters Lily and Lucy are tricked into singing at school is a cruel joke, no one expects what follows. Their angelic voices not only silence their bullies but capture the hearts of millions. Guided by their loving single father, their journey from poverty to global fame becomes a story of love, loss, and unbreakable faith. Hashtags. #emotional story, #viral twins, #heartwarming, #inspirational story, #single dad, #family love, #from rags to fame, #motivational, #sad to success, #story channel. Search tags. Twin girls singing story, emotional viral story, poor family success story, single father love, motivational story 2025, YouTube story channel, touching viral tale, father-daughter story, inspiring short story, heart-touching story.